Welcome to What the Biz, where we talk about building successful businesses, balancing life, and all the WTB in between. With your hosts,
I'm Bridget Vector.
And I'm Dan Prochko. Welcome back. It's a triple welcome. I'm Dan. This is What the Biz. I hope you're in the right place because we love that you're here. Today, we are chatting about a topic that I have been hearing a lot about on forums, on the places that I'm on, working with business owners and helping them out. I know Bridget has also heard this a lot, but the question is, when do I create a business account? Look at that tech issue. That's how you know we're live. And so we're talking about, when do you need a business account? When should I open one? Because so many businesses, start with just an idea and you just start selling. And so at some point it's just like, do I need one? How do I accept payments? All of this stuff. So we're going to get into that today. But let me introduce Bridget. How are you, Bridget?
I am okay. I have come down with the yucky crud this week. I haven't been sick in ages. I'll knock on something. But today, I think it finally caught up to me. So I'll just thank my daughter and all of her extracurricular activities. Because she is also down and out. So I am here, but I am in like cozy mode today. I have been like rocking out client files for year end. And I was like, it is a cozy day. Like I'm working, but I am tired today.
You know what? I kind of like, not a day where I'm sick. I don't wish on anybody, and I hope you feel better soon. But I will say, those days where it's like, I don't have any meetings today. I can just stay in my sweatpants, curl up, like even in my office, fine. But like, I'm just down here, really just chill, just busting stuff out. Sometimes some of the most productive days ever. So yes. I hope you feel better soon, because that totally sucks.
Thanks. What about you? What have you been up to?
I've been rehearsing for a new improv show, working on our new courses. There's actually going to be 2 coming out, not just one. We've decided let's get one out and then we'll get the second one right behind it. So really, really cool. We've figured out we've got a list large enough where both will be successful. So we're like, done. Let's just do it. We're dragging our feet, trying to like silver bullet that, even yourself, you tell clients over and over again, there's no silver bullet, and you're still trying to find it yourself. And really, you've probably found it. You just don't think that's what it is. And so, because there's no such thing as a silver bullet, that's where I'm going with this. So like, you're there, you've made it, you figured it out. You just don't trust yourself. And so I'm deciding to trust myself, and for us to trust ourselves and to just launch, which is the hardest thing to do for any business owner, is to launch something new. Yeah. Because man, do we tie our self-worth to how successful we are and what we make. Many of us do, at least. And we don't want failure. So yes, this is all an ego play. I'm okay saying it. This is therapy. Thank you, Bridget. Where should I send my payment?
But honestly, I think it's so relatable to anybody listening. Like we are our own worst enemies in this regard, right? I think most 100%. Business owners are those perfectionists, and we drag our feet on things for a long time because of that fear of failure and the fear of it not being perfect.
Yeah. And I know we said we're going to talk about this one topic. I went in this whole thing. I'm sure there's someone listening like, keep talking about that. I need to know more. Okay, we're going to put some notes in the show notes if you want to go find it, because we've talked about this topic a couple of times. But I'm sure we'll come back to it soon. But speaking of fear, I know one of the things that I've been reading a lot about, and one of the things that I've always been scared about, because my dad's a lawyer, so he like drilled it into me, was just like, don't screw with the IRS, okay? And so when you're going to start your business, especially when I said I was going to, he's just like, keep your business money and your personal money separate. So like, one of the first things that I did, me and Jenny, when we started our business together, the first thing we did is we created our LLC. We drove down to the bank, literally like the next day. It's like the day after you create the LLC, because it was just so simple. The next day we drive to the bank. We got like a check for $500, because that's just the seed money to start the account. And we opened a banking account for business. It's just the first thing we did, because it was just drilled into us like crazy. But I've been reading a ton of questions online of when is the right time to start a business banking account. And so I think it's a great time for us to chat about that. One, because we're in tax season, but two, it's like, I think it's always the right time to talk about this topic. Yeah. So let's just do it.
Yeah, I will say a lot of clients that we get introduced to have this same question, or they haven't quite done it, or they have, but they're still mixing things. And I think it's easy, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there that start their business and they're just kind of like, is this really going to work? Like maybe that's what you were talking about in the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so they get going, they start having money come in. Oh, wait, now I have expenses to pay. And like before you know it, you've kind of progressed with this account you've been using for everything. And you're like, wait, does this really work anymore?
Yeah.
Um, and I also have the flip side of this, and actually more recently, and I'll just kind of tell a story around um somebody that we have been introduced to within the last 6 months from a great tax partner that we work with consistently, who just kind of said, hey, I have a client that could really, really benefit from your guys' services. Like they're growing like crazy. They need more structure around the accounting. The owner doesn't want to do it anymore. Can you take them on? And I will say the first thing that we noticed was this exact topic we're talking about, the
Yeah.
intermixing of the business and the personal. And this business is growing. They are very successful at what they're doing. And they kind of feel this like uncertainty in certain areas, but we can't quite get them to clarity because we don't quite know what's just
Yeah.
personal and what's business. And so that was our first thing. We're like, look, we got to separate these things before we can even move forward. So I
mean,
think
it makes total sense because, when looking at financial reports, your profit and loss statement, you've got all these expense accounts in there. And by expense account, we just mean category, an expense category. And one might be, let's just say, meals and entertainment, because that's a pretty common one, let's just say. But if like your personal coffee purchases are in there, or your personal lunches, or your groceries for that matter, how do we separate what's business and what's personal so that when it comes time to do taxes, or even think about what's a deduction and what isn't, how do you even separate all of that? I mean, you've got to have really good receipt management, one, which nobody does. Okay. For some reason, it's the hardest thing in the world. I got this bag next to my bed where all my receipts go. And at some point I get to it. And really, some point is never. So if I had the accounts put together, holy cow, I don't even want to know like how it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. You're just asking for an audit.
Yes. Well, and I think you might have just triggered some of our listeners who do have to go through those reports. Like I have seen these horror stories where they've like said to their bank, "Hey, I need like an Excel file of every transaction I've had from this year." And they will spend a whole weekend before they send things off to their tax person going through every single purchase from the year and like marking it personal or marking it business. So if I said that and some of you are like folding in on yourselves because you still have to do that for your tax professional this year, it's okay. You're not alone. But please listen to this episode so that you cannot have to do that for this new year. Like this is your time to change. I am talking to you.
Wow, that's crazy. I think maybe I'm anal or not, but I've got two, like, it's weird. I got two different Amazon accounts, one for business, one for personal. And I rarely make business purchases from the personal Amazon account, even because I don't want the chance that the wrong credit card is going to be used even. And I know somebody's thinking like, does that mean you're paying for two Amazon plans and whatever? Let's not even get into that. Like, we don't have to talk about that. Okay. My point is like I keep it so separate that it's insane. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I've made personal purchases with a business card and I feel so horrible when I do it. But they're so few and far between. So few and far between. But I guess we bring all this up because what are the consequences if we keep it all together? I mean, number one, I think we just said is it makes it impossible to do your taxes, or if not impossible, so stressful and just time consuming. But what else can happen in that by keeping them mixed up?
Well, I think in that, for your example you just gave, like you can miss real expenses, right? Like your business stuff gets buried in those personal charges. You might not have things that you were supposed to get reimbursed, or you're missing out on deductions. Your subscriptions, your software, like all of that can just get lost. And then on top of that, like on the IRS side, anytime you have blurred lines, you have big problems. Like
hold on. Before we go down that route, I was just saying, like, you're totally right. Because I remember there have been times where we've gone to the store. We've gone to like Meijer, okay, or big grocery store. I don't know what you have by you, a Lucky's or a Albertsons or something. I don't know if Albertsons still a real thing. Anyway, but we'll go in and we're buying our groceries, and it's like, oh my God, that's right. I need tape, or I need like some office supply or something, and we'll throw it in. And then after we check out, we'll both be like, oh no. I can't deduct that. Now, granted, that's like a $4 thing. I don't know. I don't care. But like, I can see myself going to Costco or somewhere and like making larger purchases, but using the one card that's like the personal card or whatever. And now it's all super mixed. And yeah, splitting that out is a pain. That's insane. Yes. Like, I'm sure I miss out on a few $100s of deductions every year, which isn't a whole ton in tax liability offset, but yeah, I'm sure I miss out on $100 to $200 a year just because of those tiny little purchases that get thrown in. But if you have them in the same account, the only way to split them is if you itemize your receipts and really pay attention to everything. So yeah, so there's many out there that could be missing out on thousands of deductions, thousands of dollars in deductions, thousands. That's wow. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Just sitting here thinking about it, you're just like, wow. Yeah. There's tons out there. Anyway. Okay. Yeah. Now IRS. So that's crazy. We're missing out on thousands of tax deductions. Now the IRS.
Yeah. So anytime you're doing that and you have blurred lines, you are going to have big problems. Kind of like how you mentioned at the beginning with like your lawyer dad, right? Like saying you always want to keep it separate. Yes, you do. The IRS expects things to be separated. So anytime you are commingling, you are just opening yourself up to a red flag. And when you don't have that clean paper trail, it is much harder to prove those deductions. And if you ever get looked at, they're going to just say, nope, everything in that account is disallowed. And we've seen it happen. We have seen it happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Oh my God, that's nuts. So like if you're a business that likes to go out and hobnob and you do a ton of, lunches and, you meet up for coffee, but then you've got all your personal coffees in there too. IRS might just say you have to scrap all of it. Oh, wow.
Correct.
Wow. Yeah.
So let me give a tip around the meals piece. So those
I know I bring up meals a lot, and I know that's still like a 50% thing, but yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, this is actually probably one of the biggest and easiest categories to get audited on, to be honest, because they know how easily they can find something to disallow.
Yeah.
So even business owners that are listening that are like, well, I do have things separated. Hear me on the meals, okay? The easiest way to make sure you never run into this issue, and yes, there are cases out there where the IRS agent probably wasn't the nicest that was doing the audit, found one thing that didn't have a receipt and disallowed the entire meal category. They said, nope, if this one doesn't have it, I can't trust the rest. Just keep the receipt, and on the top of it, write who you met with, and just a brief description of what you talked about. And we have technology in front of us. Snap a picture and like put it in a Google Drive that just says whatever year receipts, like just like that, before you even leave the table when you're done with that lunch.
That's exactly how we do it, actually, is we scan them in or take photos of them, and we just make sure that they're all safe somewhere. And yeah, we do write on them. Yeah. This is what it was for. Sometimes we forget, and then we go back to our calendar and we're like, oh, who is that with? It's on the calendar. I love my calendar for that reason. But,
yes. I will say this is probably the most skipped thing ever, and it is the easiest one to do. And like, you don't have to go crazy with organizing it. If you have it in a folder somewhere, if you were to get audited, you're going to open that whole folder anyway. So don't waste time doing that. Just have it saved somewhere.
No, that's cool.
Let's see. What other pitfalls? Cash flow. Okay. If you do not have things separated, your cash flow is an absolute guessing game. I'd kind of say for most businesses, cash flow is a guessing game.
So I will say it has been wonderful, like having our books in order and then going back and seeing like, oh, here's what we tend to spend every month. here is what the algorithm pretty much, I mean, it's not really a math problem, but it's just like, here's what it looks like for us moving forward. And knowing that in any month, on average, we're spending between X and Y, and just understanding that. And, when you put the two together, that's not possible to calculate anymore.
Well, no, and like you might be out there swiping your card away and forgetting about business expenses that are about to come out because maybe you were going shopping one weekend personally. You pull up the bank account, you're like, oh, I have money in there. You go spend money, and then that business expense hits too, and then you're just in a bad
bank balance accounting. Fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I think that also goes hand in hand with some like financial decision fatigue that might come out, like if you're always guessing like, okay, what's really business money? What's really my life money? What does my life even need? I don't know. The business just handles it. Like it can make you feel kind of, I don't know, almost like unconfident, right? Like you don't have the confidence and maybe you can't make decisions. I just kind of see that as a major pitfall of not having the separate. Like you can't go look at two different accounts and say this is life account and this is business account.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. All good points. So look, okay, so we've gone over,
right? That becomes a nightmare. You mentioned it, like having it. This is a bookkeeping nightmare.
Yeah. So what are the benefits of having a business bank account? I think a lot of it's the opposite of everything we just talked about for a bit, but to focus in on a few, I think number one, that strategic decision making that you just talked about, I think is really so key, because when you have the ability to see your cash flow, your P&L, understand the health of what's going on, you can make decisions. And I don't just mean for the business, I mean personally. You get to know, oh, can I save up for this? Can I purchase this? Or, for the business, then do I have that tax money saved up that I know I need to have? It's there because you've kept it separate. I think other benefits I think about are like business services, accepting payments, having business checks or other elements in that realm, building credit for your business, really difficult to do when you're working out of a personal account. So if ever at some point you want to get a line of credit or a credit card for that, I think those are the same, just in different functions. That's very difficult to do if you're going to have everything commingled. Whereas if you can see it separately, it's much easier for banking institutions to give you those things. And for like payment processing, you have to have a business account. Like that's impossible. Otherwise, you're using like Venmo and other things like that, and those even today are building in those walls between business and personal. So mostly because of federal regulation.
I think along those same lines, the professional side and like having professionalism and credibility, right? You want your clients, your vendors, your partners to see you as a real business. And if you aren't operating from like a business account standing, you wouldn't have those payment processors in that name. You wouldn't be sending them, like payment information under that business. It would be all under your name, which just kind of it reminds me of when people set up a business email. And I know the marketer in you is going to cringe here, but they have the like,
I know where you're going with this,
the at Hotmail or the at Gmail instead of like the branded name. Like that's what I think of on the bank account side too.
I still see them.
Sure.
It's like business name at Gmail. Like that's the better ones. I still see them where it's just like, it's like Snake Charmer at whatever. And I'm just like, come on, are you really using that for business? What is going on here? What are you doing?
At Yahoo or AOL?
Yeah, Snake Charmer like 1866 at, 18771 at hotmail.com. I'm just like, ay. yeah, really funny. I think the last benefit, going back to my dad being a lawyer and everything was, if you want to protect yourself, say the worst happens like a lawsuit. Now, look, we're not lawyers, so go talk to one. But the one thing I was always taught was when you have the LLC and you diligently keep things separate, it's much harder for another party to come after your personal assets and elements because they're two separate entities. and it was the business entity that is being sued or that has this liability versus the personal. And when everything is commingled, it's impossible to know what's what. And if you don't have that separation with the LLC, it's much harder to separate that stuff, or impossible to separate that stuff. So I remember having that conversation as well, that was a really big reason to keep everything separate, to have the bank account, not just the LLC, but the bank accounts, everything is separate, because it just gave you another layer of protection. That's not to say they can't come after you, but it just puts another wall up in a way that makes it a little safer.
Yeah, when I was going through college, this one actually sticks out to me because they gave us all kinds of like court cases around this, where a business owner is like, oh, but I have my LLC, like I'm protected. And they're like, no. And the word for this is you pierce the corporate veil, like very high tech. Even like one thing out of that business account, and I will tell you that attorney on the other side that wants to get you with that lawsuit will say, nope, that transaction pierced the corporate veil.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So great point that even with an LLC, you still have to have that separation for it to hold up. Yes. And yes, we're not lawyers. We're just giving examples of things that we've heard of.
Yep, exactly. So look, how do we go about this? I think, so, if you've been listening, it's like, when's the time? Now, I think is the answer. The answer is now, as soon as possible. One, because you add in all the protections, but two, then you get access to all the cool benefits where you can make better decisions, you get access to other services, etc. So how do we go about doing it? I think number one is get your LLC. So if you don't have an LLC, you definitely need one of those.
Yep. And alongside that, grab your EIN. It's like a social security number for your business. It's free. You can do it online. It takes seconds. So you'll need the LLC and the EIN number.
Yep. Both are pretty simple in my experience. I know some states have different loopholes, and depending on the industry you're in, there might be an added layer of compliance, of certification in some way. And different states have different fees for registering LLCs. But, from what I've seen, it tends to range between $25 and $150, depending on the state, for an LLC. And there might be other fees depending on your industry. Like I was saying, I have heard, like in Texas, there are a couple, which is weird because it's Texas, but I heard something, I forget what industry in Texas and like Nevada, elsewhere, whatever. Anyway, not super expensive. And then renewing, and then that is something that you renew every year. And that's usually costs less than your first time. Your first time costs more, every time afterwards a little bit less, but it's super simple process. But I think that's step one is you get that, and then your EIN, and they're not super expensive.
No, and I think almost every state you can do that online for the setup, and EIN you certainly can.
Yes.
Then I think you go into just choosing the right bank, right? Like think going through, like, I would search for something that has a free business checking with no monthly fees. Can you do it online, or do you have to go in? I think a big one, especially as businesses are growing, finding out, like, is there mobile banking options and do they integrate with softwares is a big one. And then there are businesses that like getting into the whole profit first or envelope style savings. And there are banks that are tailored towards that kind of thing. I think local credit unions are great for like that relationship side. They're normally really good to work with if you're ever going to want funding. Big bank world, we've always had great luck with Chase. They do offer like a very significant bonus for opening a business account with them. I think last I saw it was a $400 bonus just for opening a business account. And then there's like the fintech type. Relay is one that's very popular that I've heard of that does like the sub accounts for that envelope style savings. I think Bluevine is another one that I've heard of.
Sure.
But yeah, just kind of like exploring, what are the options and how easily does it work with other things that I'm going to want? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess just put another option out there of the big ones. I mean, we've been with Fifth Third for 20 years or something like that. Business accounts have been with them for 15. Every bank, every institution has their thing you're not going to like. So shop around, go explore, see what they're like, see what their tech is like. Can they do and have what you're looking for? I think are all really great options. And I love that you brought up the envelope thing. and that profit first, because I think that's one reason why having multiple accounts is so beneficial, is to keep it separate. So even within the business, are there certain things you want to keep separate? That's all the envelope system is like, you have an account for profit, you have an account for your taxes, you have an account for, the operations day to day, or however many other accounts or envelopes you may need. And banks that can help you in that way, that don't have added fees for multiple accounts, et cetera, if your brain works that way, can be very, very beneficial.
And you're not limited to one business bank account. And as you grow profit, I would highly recommend get one of those high yield and actually start building wealth. Like, make your money work for you.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. Yeah. So look, all of this to say is like, yes, there are some added steps in the sense of, you're going to be tracking 2 different bank accounts. Yes, you're going to have multiple cards you're going to have to track in terms of which one am I paying for. And yes, when you do your accounting or your bookkeeping, you're going to want to connect to, you keep all of that separate, and you have the data, tracking separately, et cetera, so that everything is accurate. But what you get in return is so much more in terms of that strategic planning, the decision making, the security and safety. Personally, if as long as you do it all right and you don't pierce the veil, as it were, and you'll also build that trust and reputation, not just in terms of credit score, but with your customers too, because you'll have the ability to take those credit card payments or other certain services, and it'll show up on their statement that, oh yeah, you paid XYZ and it's this business, not person's name, so yeah, there's all of that at play. Yeah.
So I think there's one last piece we need to touch on that we get asked all of the time. And I think this is almost like a panic place where people are like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I don't understand how I then get the money for myself. It is as simple as a transfer from that business account to a personal account. Like, that is the proper way to do that. And we get asked this all the time. People panic about this all the time. And it is seriously that simple. So if you know I was spending about $500 a week out of my business personally, just set up a transfer that gives yourself $500 from that business to the personal. And then you just use that personal account card like you were your business card. It is seriously that easy. Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
That we do exactly that. Every month, or twice a month, we get these 2 owner draws, as they're called. And then they just get recorded appropriately by our bookkeepers, wink. And we get to see exactly, what we're getting, in draws. Yes, as you grow, you may think, oh, let's change this. I want to become my own W-2. You'll get there. We're not even going to talk about that today. That's a whole other thing. But if you're just starting out, it really is that simple. And if you have the right bank, sometimes they'll let you just do the account to account, which is wonderful. It's not always that easy because there's like fraud or whatever. But there's ways to make things happen, make it really easy for you so you have access to your money the way you need it. But yet keep it all separate and safe. So,
and never switch to that W-2 that Dan mentioned if you have business and personal still going together. Like, will regret that forever. So that's my last
100%. Great, cool. All right, I love it. I think we hit this topic. So let's move into what the biz, or moment of the week, or WTB moment of the week. I think you went first last time, so I'll jump in here today. I'm going to tip my hat to the city of Kalamazoo. Okay, not a lot of municipalities, I think get a lot of props or kudos for communication or community involvement or engagement. The city of Kalamazoo right now is doing its 10-year vision planning. And what they are doing is they're holding neighborhood meetings in every one of Kalamazoo's neighborhoods. And there's like 12 or 14 of them. And so over the last 2 months, since the beginning of the year, they've been holding like a 2-hour session where you come in and you give your opinion on different elements of the city, anything from sustainability to environment, parks and rec, business dev, transportation, connectivity, et cetera. And from that, they distill all of that together to create here's our vision plan for the next 10 years of where the city is going to go. And so it was just really cool. I was at our neighborhood one, and I want to say there were a few hundred people that came through. And it's never a huge percentage of people. And I know there's somebody out there who always says like, well, I didn't hear about it. I wish the city was better at communicating. We as citizens also have to be proactive and find these things, but the city has done a really good job of posting, across all their social, across the website, through emails to get that engagement. I think it's really cool that they are this open and listen and then distill down to here's the direction we're going to go. And so far, in my last 15 years here in town, Kalamazoo, I think, has done this, once before, and we've seen some pretty good changes. So I'm excited to see what comes out of it. So I'm going to tip. That's my what the biz positive moment of the week of like, yeah, get that feedback. I think that's my learning from it is it's feedback. Even cities, get the feedback, see what your customers, where they want to go, distill that into here's what we can do and here's what makes the most sense. Here's how we become visionaries and move forward in that way. And yeah, so I like it. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Mine is actually on a local business that I see quite frequently, like online. Most recently, they have been looking to hire somebody to fulfill some roles going on. This is a successful business. They seem to be profitable. But they recently put out a feeler for looking to potentially sell this cash profitable business because they aren't finding people to work for them. Huh. I don't know if I'm calling this like a loss or something, but it's more like a question mark, right? Like it brings so many other questions into my mind around like, is the talent pool really that bad? Is there something around the job? Is it what it's paying? Like, what is all the angles? And like, I just feel like it escalated very quickly to like, now I'm looking at potentially selling this.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. It just felt like a very abrupt shift in things.
Yeah.
So I just kind of had a moment that it created like a lot of questions in my mind. And that might just be my like, we're an entrepreneur and we always want to help. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, why would you get rid of like a business if, yeah.
I mean, that points to it's a real epidemic in this country, especially with baby boomers aging out, is that there are a lot of small businesses without succession plans. Mm-hmm. And I know this doesn't sound like it's a succession plan issue. This sounds like there's something going on and they're having a hard time hiring. I don't know what it is, what the industry is, but there is an issue in this country on succession planning where, owners age out. They can't find anyone to buy the company or another company to buy it. Investment firms, investment funds aren't really buying up small businesses under a certain, dollar amount because they're not as profitable and they're harder to manage and they're not experts on consolidating multiple of these businesses together. And it's also difficult to buy many of these businesses close to one another to consolidate in a valuable way. So they end up closing, and so, I mean, I hear this and slightly different, but it just makes me think about that of like, got to have a plan for hiring. You got to have this plan for succession and what comes next. And if we don't, we end up losing out on these businesses and the community's worse for it. I mean, there's jobs at play there,
Yeah.
There is that saying of always be hiring,
Yeah.
That it's a very big one that I hear a lot. And so I'm sad to hear it, man. I really wonder what that is. That's rough.
Yeah. So I have my eyes on it. I'm kind of watching this now to see how it plays out. No.
You're going to buy it?
No. No. Actually, my industry is one of those that you're talking about. Like the baby boomers in the accounting world they are there. They are exiting, and like there are accounting firms and shortages. Like firms are going up everywhere for sale, and there's just a shortage of the accountants in this space.
Yeah, it's crazy how many go for sale. It's literally, you need to have like a 5-year runway if you're thinking of selling, because however big at least this is what, talking with some, M&A or brokers that I'm friends with, it's about a 5-year process, because when you think you're about ready to sell, here's what actually ends up happening. You get your business evaluated and it's never worth what you think it's worth. And so then you need to spend a few years building the business back up to show a growth. And you need like 3 years of growth and showing that it's still building and growing and not steady to get the highest value for the business. So you're going to spend 3 years building it back up. And then it can be an up to 2 year process to sell it or transfer or, et cetera, to get someone to buy it, especially if you're a small business. So, it just boggled my mind that it was a 5 year process to sell a business. Usually, I mean, if you're already growing for many years, et cetera, then maybe you can bring it down to 6 months to 2 years, et cetera. But yeah, plan on 5 years. And so many people are like, I'm ready to sell now. And it's like, nope, that's a little too late. You should have started this 5 years ago. So really, whenever you're at that point where you think you're 5 years out from selling, that's when you should engage in that process and get with a broker and start that plan, get it valued and start that plan to get going. Because, you don't want to get stuck in a situation where you can't sell. So, yeah.
I mean, I think it makes sense. And this could probably be a whole topic for us around succession planning. But 100%. I mean, it makes sense, right? Businesses get to a comfort level and you're going to stay there until, like you just said, now I want to sell. Crap, we got to make this thing look like it's
it's growing. Yeah, we got to make this thing look like it's not just stagnant. Yeah, exactly. 100%. So, yeah, cool. Well, that's a wrap on another episode. Thanks for hanging out with and you spent it with us. So thank you so much. If you found value in today's conversation, maybe picked up a new mindset, a new insight, etc., do us a favor, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's the best way to help other business owners find the show and build their own path to freedom. So look, if you've got a hurdle that you're facing or a topic you want us to explore or maybe share our expertise on, head over to whatthebiz.com, drop us a line. We love hearing your ideas. And look, we might just make it a whole episode. So until next time, keep building, stay proactive, and we'll see you on the next one.